It got kind of warm the other day, and it reminded me of something. When I was a kid, I used to go for ice cream in the summertime. I'm waiting for it to warm up enough for that. On a really hot day in July, usually, maybe August, my parents would load my brother and myself up into the family car. I don't know what your family car, maybe it was a station wagon, or maybe it was an even older car, something with a nice bench seat in the back and the front. And we'd ride all the way down to the end of Commercial Drive in Vancouver. The end of Commercial Drive, I think it's called Venables. You eventually kind of slide into Venables there, and it's more sort of an industrial area in that part of Vancouver. And on that street was an old, kind of fairly nondescript square block building that held my favorite ice cream place. Now, it wasn't so much ice cream as it was gelato, and I'm assuming that that was sort of the Italian influence of Commercial Drive at that point in time, which is still a little bit there. Outside the building itself being kind of bland, there wasn't too much to see there. You almost couldn't really tell it was much of an ice cream place. But when you went inside, that was when it changed. Now, glass display case upon glass display case lay before our young eyes. And each case is filled with about 20 types of ice cream. And there are 6 of these big cases in front of us. Over 100 flavors of ice cream is their claim to fame. That was the claim to fame. Now, you could have all your favorites, right? You could have chocolate and strawberry and vanilla, of course. And you get a little more exciting with maybe chocolate chip mint or strawberry swirl or vanilla caramel stripe. Can you taste it? Then you could get downright exotic with double fudge brownie or tiramisu or something like that. Now, there were fruit sorbets, but my brother and I usually ignored those. They weren't that interesting. I like them now that I'm a bit older. And so usually we have 3 scoops. That was what we were allowed, 3 scoops. And we chose usually from the exciting to the exotic section. And I just remember that multicolored tower kind of slowly being passed over the counter to me. And I'd grab it with both hands, deathly afraid that it might topple. And I come close a few times, but the ice cream server, he seems to know how to pack those huge dollops of frozen delight together in a really structurally sound way. The guy knew what he was doing. And I'd relish the moment when I'd walk outside the building into the beating sun, and the flavored drops of cool liquid would begin to make their way down on my clutching hands, and I'd play a game of kind of trying to grab them before they made their way down to the pavement. I would play that game all day if I could. But just a minute, I'm getting a little bit carried away here, of course, with this flavors in my mouth. There's something else back in the ice cream shop that I want to talk about. It was a bit of a strange thing there. While you came for those really delectable flavors, there were some, let's say, interesting specimens scattered in those cold ice boxes. You can't tell by just looking around the store. At first or even at second glance, all the ice cream, it really does look delicious. For this discovery, you have to look at a big black board. It was about 3 by 3 feet up on the, kind of off in the corner a little bit, with some white scribbling that said, Flavors of the Month. Now, it would have something, and I'll talk about that in a second, but each case had in it also some of these previous flavors of the month. And so on this other big board, starting from 1 and going way past 100, were all the names of the flavors. And so strawberry, I think, was number 7. I don't know, I'm just guessing. And then you come along number 8, and it seemed just completely out of place. Pickle ice cream. The first time you see it, you kind of stop immediately and you take a second glance. Then you try and match number 8 up with number 8 in the case, and there it is. And it's kind of an off green with little translucent triangles in it, sort of reminiscent of, I don't know, remember the old Jell-O molds with stuff inside? Like, I don't know, some people put olives in them. I don't know why, but they did. And my brother would immediately, and I would immediately go, oh, gross, as we looked at this weird tub of ice cream. Should I? I dare you. I dare you. But neither of us ever had the courage. to waste one of those three choices on an obviously bad choice, because that's what it seemed like, a bad choice. We made a lot of good or bad choices as kids, but this one we did not make. Well, of course, it doesn't end with pickle. There's also roasted garlic and curry ice cream and beet ice cream and a bunch of others that I can't remember. All of them are sort of left untouched, except a few that have kind of a big divot taken out, and I'm sure it was a bet or a dare. Otherwise, we'd just go in there for what we liked. We'd make our way through the sort of vaguely familiar types, and you land on 5 or 6 that you enjoy, and you kind of keep coming back to them, just sort of like most of us do with most things. We try it, we find out what we like, and we continue to go back to it. I don't know why, well, I do know why, pickle just was not an option for us. I don't know if pickle's an option for anyone. It's so strange, right? It's such a strange and weird and out of place thing. The thing is, though, is I like pickles, and I do like curry, and I love roasted garlic. And beet's a non-starter for me. No, not with beet. But the other 3 tastes I enjoy. So why not as ice cream? The thing is, the owner, back to the flavor of the month, the owner always recommended one of these weird flavors in that flavor of the month sign. And it's almost as if for this man, years had gone by and he had made these hundreds of flavors, and he had made chocolate chip and chocolate chip mint and double fudge brownie, and he'd tasted all the types, and now he wanted to see what else was possible in the world of ice cream. Now, as I thought about this story and I look back, I have to say I do wish I'd tried those flavors of the month. As with most things in life, time has moved on and that place is no longer, it's gone. I'm sure I could order pickle ice cream online, but it wouldn't be the same as getting it in there and walking out into the sun and having it drip on my hands. That chance is gone. I won't know it, possibly because I was young and naive or ignorant, but I wrote it off too quickly. It was too strange, it was too weird, it was too outside of what I conceptualized ice cream to be. Now, of course, there's a good chance, at least in my own mind and probably in most of ours, that pickle ice cream tastes absolutely horrible. Now, you can let me know if you've ever tried it and tell me. On the other hand, I thought maybe the ice cream maker was onto something. I don't know. Maybe his grasp of ice cream far surpassed mine and even most people's. I'm sure it did. He was around it all the time. Can you imagine spending 50 years around ice cream? He'd spend all those hours tasting and trying and combining. He knew what worked and what didn't. And if for that reason alone, I wish I'd tried the flavor of the month. I wish I'd stepped into this person's world with him, into the depth of his experience, his quirky and strange and even weird taste journey. Sure, maybe it wouldn't have gone so well, I don't know, but what do I have really lost? And maybe the better question was, what could I have gained? What if I'd tried pickle ice cream and I'd loved it? What if I'd shared that love of pickle ice cream with others and they'd had a chance to taste it as well? What if that flavor of the month, what if pickle ice cream became a household name like chocolate and strawberry and vanilla, and it was kind of lined up with those 3 flavors added on as a 4th in the rainbow pack? That one act could have changed the ice cream world forever. It could have. Or maybe I'd stepped out into the scorching sun, sunk my teeth deep into that and spit it out on the ground. Well, there was always another flavor I guess I could have tried. Our world is moving very quickly, isn't it? And there are so many flavors and tastes out there in terms of what is happening around us. At times it can maybe seem like a distraction, all of these flavors, or worse, maybe it feels like we're being led down the garden path in some way. And maybe at times this is true. I don't know. We won't know until years later. It could also be true that we're being sent out into the world, as it talks about in the gospel today, as lambs in the midst of wolves, meaning that it's not necessarily safe, that ministry isn't safe, that there is some risk involved in all of this, being a Christian and being in the world, that we're supposed to be wise as serpents, but also innocent as doves, that we were supposed to kind of pay attention, but also to stand and be willing to open ourselves up to something new. Jesus is asking us to go out to place, person to person, and flavor to flavor. Christ isn't just asking us, Christ is inviting you and me. We're being asked to see how this faith, how this formation that happens all the time for us, this trust in God, connects to what's happening out there in the world. What is God up to in the world? The other day I went to the Black Lives Matter rally. I wore my full ventilator face mask with organic vapor filters on it just to make sure. But I went there wondering, where was God, or where is God going to show up in this place? And as I heard people crying out these different slogans, one of them that touched me most was when we were back, after we had done the march, we were back at City Hall, and this gentleman who was up front, he was leading, and he said, "We are all people," and this crowd cried out, "We are all people," and he cried out, "I am a person," and everyone cried out, "I am a person." And in that moment, I just sensed God's presence, sort of this lament, this cry to God, this cry that I am a person, I'm something. The Spirit was in that place. As all of you know, the society is going through a massive upheaval. It seems like everything is kind of up for grabs, and right now it's the police institution, right? Institutions that we expect to stand the test of time are not. Ways of being that are have been socially acceptable are being challenged, and for good reason. We are being asked to consider some flavors that maybe we aren't used to. Maybe we've been taught to dislike, or maybe they look unappealing. I don't know what it's like for you. Some of these flavors might actually change the world, and God is working through some of these spaces. If we don't taste them, if we don't at least consider them, we miss out on what could be some of the most beautiful things that God is trying to do. And we miss out being part of that conversation with the world as a church, to give our unique view of how God sees things into that space so that God's kingdom can come. It's easy to write off something as a flavor of the month and be dismissive, here today and gone tomorrow, right? It's a lot harder to actually ask for that flavor and bite into it, to see if it is really what everyone else says it is, or to see if God is something up, or what God might be up to in that space. And so this is your invitation today, to go out and taste some of those flavors, knowing that God goes with you, knowing that you are innocent as doves in a sense that you are open and vulnerable, that you are cunning as serpents, and that you need to also pay attention to what you're taking in, that there is risk involved in this Christian journey. But who knows? You, us, we might discover some flavors that could change everything. I mean, that's what God is doing, right? Changing the world. Amen.